public hearing to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 The purpose of said public hearing is to hear testimony and discuss the following. File of the Council number 38, 2018, an ordinance appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2019 to and including December 31, 2019, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2019.
Thank you. We have with us this evening Mr. Dave Bolzoni, the city's business administrator. I would like to thank Mr. Bolzoni for attending, and the floor is yours.
And I'd like to thank all of you. Certainly I'd like to thank you for allowing for some adjustment that really occurred because of some unforeseen circumstances. What I would like to do this evening, as maybe a departure from prior presentations, is really just read through a cover memorandum that I had attached to the questions that were submitted to the administration for review and response. And then I'll make some brief comment after that, and then at that point I'll depart. And this is really relative to the questions. And I view the responses to the attached questions as a collaborative effort with council members. I will, with my responses, include subjective commentary with detailed information for consideration. The process of evaluation is, of course, subject to a number of assumptions which are variable in nature and subject to some conjecture. Agreement or disagreement with these assumptions is a valuable part of the process of budget adoption. I will also note that this correspondence includes in excess of what I believe are close to 50 questions, which offer a level of detail additional to the budget narrative, and the budget narrative had a fairly measurable level of detail as well. I doubt whether this process is applicable to most municipalities, since I've viewed various budgets in conjunction with this review. But what I will say is that value can be derived from this process, from what amounts to an in-depth evaluation of each budget component. Disagreement with these budget assumptions is obviously a legislative right and should be exercised accordingly. I would consistently defend that right and its value, hence the need to provide the responses. This is an important consideration for council, and it's really representative of a much larger consideration. We share a geography with a local government that is presently struggling to some extent, and likely for what I believe may be the foreseeable future, raise taxes in order to achieve fiscal stability. Viewing it in the context of the Amoroso plan references incremental increases, tax increases periodically to maintain our own fiscal stability. I agree with that premise, but we really can't consider it in a budgetary vacuum. Therefore, I view the budgetary process with some limitations. And I think you'll get that sense as you're going through some of the questions, and certainly as you're going through the budget. But what I would say is you certainly want to consider these thoughts as you're reviewing the budget, because I think they're important. Now, what I will say, though, is when I first looked at the request and the number of questions, I don't think my commentary was quite as favorable nor as diplomatic as it is now. But what I realized, though, is that going through this process really required me to take a look at some items that I may or may not have looked at in that kind of detail. And I think there's some value to that part of the process. So in some cases, it strengthened my assumptions. and in some cases it pointed out to some deficiencies. But again, they're all assumptions, and I think when you look at the responses to the questions, you'll find that the assumptions really for the most part are supported by data. Now, the data certainly can be variable, and obviously in many cases there is really an impact on that data from economic conditions and other impacts, various impacts that really could have some significant influence on the budgetary process. So with that, each one of you have a copy. I don't see, since we've got a limited amount of time, I don't necessarily see where we can cover each one of the questions and each one of the responses, but as I close the responses to the questions, what I would do is certainly welcome any communication from each one of you individually if you have any questions on any of those responses.
Mr. Bolzoni, we thank you again for, I know Councilman Gahn sent a lengthy list of questions, and it looks like they're mostly answered here. Just for the public and those watching on TV, could you give, and we talked about it a little bit last week, but could you give a brief overview of the budget? Obviously, the thing people most important is no tax increase, but could you just give a generalized, basically repeat for the public the synopsis of the budget?
Well, I think what we wanted to do relative to the budget was continue the relatively significant allocation to capital expenditures. And this would really be the fourth year of what I believe would be a fairly significant investment in the city, so to speak. It should conclude the measure of capital investments that we've had almost uniformly across various departments. And I think there was a lot of value to that because certainly there were a number of deficiencies that the city had when we had gotten involved in the budget process beginning in 2015. Certainly the difficulties the city faced in 2014 have been discussed and well reported. So I think the budget is really a continuation of what we've been trying to achieve, and that's creating a certain level of stability within the city. Obviously, you've got influences that are generally outside of our control that we would have to react to. But for the most part, I think the budget creates a focus on a continued investment in the city. There are some assumptions that, upon reviewing, I think are really based on continued, I think a continued favorable economic environment. And that certainly helps the city. Relative to revenues, I think the continuation of what has been a fairly strong economy into 2019 should help. But again, obviously, you know, the economic benefit can be influenced by the state of the economy, and that would have to be revisited in the 2019 budget. But overall, I think the budget's fairly strong. And again, certainly if you have any questions, you're welcome to give me a call, contact me as you see fit.
And I know I speak for all of us. I appreciate how open and willing you are to take calls from us when we have questions. Pretty much any time, day or night, weekend, weekday. So we certainly appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bolzoni. Our first speaker is Joan Hodowanitz.
Hodowanitz, city resident and taxpayer. As you go through your due diligence on this operating budget, a couple things I would hope that you would follow up on. One is just a general recommendation. I think it would be useful for the general public if, when the draft budget comes out, the operating budget, that with it, we should see the capital budget at the same time, because they do impact on each other. And that should be posted on the website just like the operating budget. So if you could maybe suggest that to the administration, but I do think that would be very helpful to assess the parameters of the operating budget. Second, I read through the various narrative portions and looked at the line items. In the budget summary, which begins the document, there is only one sentence that refers to stormwater management. And this is what it says, quote, "Effective stormwater management pretends to be a principal initiative in 2019, regardless of the impact on the operating budget," unquote. Now, I was very tired the last week or two because I had to move, but I'll be darned if I could find anything else about stormwater management anywhere in that operating budget. So if you have found it, would you please point it out to me? I think, even though the Arcata study is a year late, which is shameful, but I think the administration probably has some ideas of what the cost implications are going to be on stormwater management, not just setting up the authority, but I think they probably do have a handle on it. And this sentence suggests that it's going to be a major factor in 2019. But did anybody see anything else in the budget on it? I didn't. So that I would like you to follow up on. Another thing that caught my attention, because I was only able to spend a little bit of time going through the budget, court awards. It went from $375,000 in 2018 budget to $725,000 in the 2019 budget, which is more than double. Now, why would they double court awards if they were, unless they had some idea that they'd be facing out some court-ordered payments? Again, going back to the audit, there was nothing said about the pending lawsuits that the city is facing, which can impact on their operating budget greatly. So I'd like to know about that. Also, one of the things I would have loved to have seen somewhere in the narrative, if not in the line items, was what cost savings can the city obtain by using interns? You know, there should be significant cost savings across many departments with the various colleges in using interns in finance, in accounting, in, you know, criminal justice. A whole lot of things can be done. So as you go through your due diligence on this issue, please look at those items, especially capital budgets and stormwater management. I think those were kind of left unaddressed, and they should be. Thank you.
Yes, unlike past years where I have analyzed every single budget line item, I decided not to do that because I didn't know if there was going to be a 5-minute limit, and every time I have submitted them in writing, of all the years I've done that, which is pretty much every year, only once during the years of Janet Evans' council presidency did I get answers back. So. Now, the first question I have is the controller's report, or statement, I guess, because I don't know how this works, but the controller's report for December 2017 showed $39,707,401 of expenditures over the revenue. Oops, I think my purse, that might be my purse. Kill it. So how does that get covered? In the expenditures, and you know, when I'm finished you can tell me, because I don't know how that happens, how you can expend that much money and then just, unless we have a fairy godmother someplace that's being held under wraps. And I have a concern that the 2018 revenue budget may not be met. Based on the application of the average, I went back 5 years and took what the percentage of the revenue at September was to the end of the year. And it came out somewhere around 80%, which would bring us, if that holds true on that average of those 5 years, to only $105,000, or $105 million and a half. So I don't know if we're going to end up this year in the hole again, and again, how that would be covered if we do end up that way. And I'm concerned about expenses that they might, well, exceed the revenue again this year. The cable TV and miscellaneous revenues lacks transparency. For example, last year the account was budgeted at $1,396,500, while actuals came in at $31,944,184, just a scant $2.5 million shy of the real estate tax collected. From whence did that windfall come? You know, and that's not the only year. Some years it's flipped. I have it here if anybody would like to look at it, going back to, I think, 2012. And where in the budget is the MMO expense? I would like to know that. And that's why I'm concerned about the expenses, because we have 5 more pay periods. That's about $6.4 million. The TAN has to be paid back. That's $12.75 million. We have the overtime from the storm of last week, and I think we have about a $10 million MMO payment. And I don't know if that, so that's a lot. You know, it's like $29 million yet to come out in addition to the regular other things. So I'm a little concerned about that as well. And is the reason the 2019 real estate tax revenue is $207,000 lower than the 2018 budget because of appeals resulting in reduced I mean, why is it down? The properties are the same, the
assessed valuations are the same, but you're right, the appeals are causing a reduction in the overall value. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. And then, is there a special account number for potential cost-sharing commitments, such as, I think it's on the agenda tonight, $386,169 for the 2 street sweepers we are committing to if you pass that tonight? Is there a special account that goes into? That's happened throughout the year, and I think we need a special account so we know how much we've committed to if we get the grants. And we are trading 1 street sweeper for 2 replacements, but no operator in the budget, so I'm not sure what gives. Since there's nobody else, oh, no, there are other people? May I continue? I only have a couple more.
If you want another minute, that's fine.
Okay. The number and dollar value of transfers is troublesome and destroys the credibility of the budget process, I think. There are just too many with too big a dollars. It's like, well, let's plug some here and then we'll use that as a petty cash fund, except it never gets returned. And I would like to know the amount of the revenue that's collected from permits required by the Central Business District Parking Ordinance. I think we may be missing some. And again, most importantly, what I believe is missing, again, are MS4 compliance regarding stormwater, street signs, City Hall exterior, and what happens if we lose any of those cases once this budget, the lawsuits, once this budget has been passed. The rest I'll hold for the regular meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council specifically on the budget? If not, this hearing is adjourned. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for all of those who have passed away in our community. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Gahan?
Here.
Mr. Logan?
Here. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A minutes of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority Board meeting held October 1, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3B agenda for the City Planning Commission meeting to be held November 28, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3C minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held September 19, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3D minutes of the non-uniform municipal pension board meetings held October 17 and October 24, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3E minutes of the Scranton Police Pension Commission meeting held October 17, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3F minutes of the Composite Pension Board meeting held October 17, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3G agenda for the non-uniform municipal pension board meeting held November 21, 2018.
Any comments? Received and filed.
3H tax assessor's results report for hearing date held November 14, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have announcements to make? We have a couple. Next Monday, December 3rd at 5:30, we'll hold a required public hearing to hear testimony from the city planner regarding items 6L and 6M on tonight's agenda. And a reminder that bagged leaves will be collected the week of December 10th. The DPW will be collecting leaves that week and not newspapers. Residents are encouraged to bag their leaves, and anyone needing bags may pick those up at any fire station in the city or at DPW headquarters.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Our first speaker tonight is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, city resident and taxpayer. Well, first off, congratulations, Kyle, on your upcoming nuptials. What's the date?
The end of May.
End of May?
May 31st.
Okay, are we all invited? Never mind.
We're going to Punta Cana, so you could come if you want.
Okay, and congratulations, Billy, on having your little girl come in, what, in March?
Yep, thank you.
What's her name?
I don't know yet. We're
Now,
still debating that.
Just for you, we're going to have a book sale December 4th through December 9th. Your two little boys and your upcoming little girl, you start building their libraries now. So it's the Friends of the Scranton Public Library quarterly book sale. It will be right in front of Crunch Gym, the second floor of the marketplace at Steamtown, from Tuesday, December 4th through Sunday, December 9th, essentially the same hours as the mall. It's a great opportunity to get some wonderful holiday gifts, especially if you have munchkins. Lots of children's books. Also, Kyle, lots of cookbooks if your fiance does not know how to cook. Never mind.
I'm the cooker.
Well, then cookbooks for you. Okay, so what's the status on the Arcadis study that's now a year late? Any hope? Are we going to see it this year, next year, the year after?
Oh. I missed a PL meeting today, so I didn't get an update.
It will be next year. I think I gave an update 2 or 3 weeks ago, Ms. Hodowanitz, and nothing has changed as far as I know.
Okay. As you know, I don't drive anymore. I walk everywhere. And one of the places I walk to is my vet's office, which she's on North 9th Street, Dr. Paws. Good vet, by the way. However, I was walking over there to get some cat food for Godzilla. And coming down that West Lackawanna Avenue Bridge coming into town, I'm watching a woman pushing a baby stroller on the street with the traffic coming in at her back, because the sidewalk would not allow her to walk on the sidewalk with the baby stroller. Okay, now I don't know if that's a state bridge or a city bridge, but something needs to be done. If it's not the city's responsibility, the city should be telling the state, do something about it, because no woman should have to push a baby stroller on the street with traffic beeping at her, coming at her back. If you look at the sidewalk, you see it's hooked up like this, and you can walk over it if you're just one person, but you cannot push a baby stroller. So I wish somebody would do something about that sidewalk on that bridge before somebody gets hurt. We have some very discourteous drivers in this town. Also, on Sunday's paper, on the front page, was an article about overtime in the city. And, you know, I'm not one to like to see any tax dollars wasted, but you know, there are two sides to every story. And I gotta tell you, I hear a lot of people complain about how much money the police and firefighters make, and city employees. But three of the most dangerous and dirty and difficult jobs that you can get in this city or in this country is firefighter, police officer, and a DPW worker. They are not the kind of jobs, that allow you to sit on your tush and do nothing. They can kill you. They have killed people in the past. So for those people who say, well, look at all the overtime they make, and they make six figures and this, that, and the other thing. If, in fact, management is doing everything they can to minimize overtime, fine. But to denigrate these people who literally put their lives on the line for us. Somebody does have to work overtime when there's a snowstorm. Somebody's got to work overtime when people are sick or people retire and there's a shortage of personnel. And those jobs are not easy. So granted, let's be very careful on how we spend our taxpayer dollars. But let's remember the work that these people are doing for us, and you cannot say enough good about them. And if somebody robs me, or if my apartment burns down, I feel comfortable that the best people are going to come to protect me. And that's what I have for tonight. Thank you. See you at the book sale.
Thank you. Maurice Schumacher?
Marie Schumacher. I don't often disagree with Joan, but I will disagree on the overtime issue. I'm looking at something says, Mr. Courtwright, in January 2015, Mr. Courtwright touted how the new police contract alone would result in $750,000 to $1 million annually in savings and revenue. I think we were sold a bill of goods, and the only way I can be convinced otherwise is to see all of the changes in that contract, and are the taxpayers ahead or are we behind? Were we told the truth, or was that just a ploy to get it through here? So I would like to see that happen before you return in January, assuming you're going to find a way to come back. Okay, 3H, just out of curiosity, I thought that 10/31 was the last day that the county could have the appeal. So how does 3H
I think
11/14.
You can file for an appeal prior to September. September's the last day you can file for the appeal, so it depends on how many.
But I thought they had to be done by the end of October.
I think that's a self-imposed policy. I don't think that's a law.
Okay.
I do know that some were delayed, and oftentimes I know new construction is treated differently than
Yeah,
existing.
but it's
as
a big
well.
list, though.
Yeah, I'm
This
looking at it
isn't
now.
all construction, certainly. Yeah, okay, back to the capital budget and cash flow are two items that need to be put on the website. I don't know, do you remember, when did you vote on the capital budget? I don't even remember that being voted on this year. I mean, I know it's a 5-year, but it's renewed, and usually it's April or May, but I couldn't find it. So maybe you could get that put up on the website? And for next year, the cash flow on a regular basis would also be helpful. And things like what's happened with the overtime would not wait till the end of the year to be a surprise. And then I would like to make, again, repeat my request for the minutes of the Scranton Tomorrow meetings. They've got a boatload of the money that we've sent to them. And I think we get things from all the other minutes from all the other groups, but we don't get anything from them. All we do is see when they've got an RFP that's spending some of our money or buying new flower pots or, you know. So I would like to see those on a regular basis. And what is the status of the Sorrenti? Is that now an operating, has a new roof been put on, and is that an official building? Are there people assigned there?
Well, the new roof is under construction right as we speak. The new roof is being installed. Equipment is there. I don't think there's anybody assigned there, but there is plenty of equipment in the building.
And I've asked for a breakdown of what has actually been spent up at that building.
Okay, yeah, that would be nice. And then can somebody tell me how a land is assessed? What makes land, one chunk of land, more valuable than another?
Location,
other than the eye of
location,
the
location.
beholder?
Location.
Well, I know it used to be the distance from City Hall for the Scranton ones, because we had jobs. We actually had a lot of jobs down here in the city, and this was, you know, convenience. But
Well,
that doesn't happen anymore.
In 1970,
But
it was done.
in whose eye? I mean, in whose eye? Location, location, location.
Right.
But one
Well, it's based on-
person's that's more of a market value thing.
That's exactly right. It's a market value. Yeah,
But that's not the way our land is assessed.
it is. Well, I'm not sure how, it was in 1970 when the last assessment was done. It was based on market value. I don't agree with it, but that's the way it was done. First of all, I don't agree with the millage on land to begin with. That's another issue altogether. Because people on East Mountain and West Mountain and Upper Hill and Green Ridge are paying more than anybody else.
Okay, and then I do have the thing I had missing from the, I couldn't get to, was I think there's been a missed opportunity. I did ask about what we have received in permits by that Central City Business District ordinance, because there are some, okay, I'll finish if I may. I think that's a missed opportunity is a simple amendment to that parking ordinance. Because with it, you could, number one, increase revenue to the city, you could increase the parking garage utilization, and you could make it easier to remove snow from curb to curb. Because what that ordinance says is that no vehicle shall be parked there for more than 2 hours at a parking meter. And the only problem with that is currently they give the enforcement hours are the same as the meter hours. But if you change the enforcement hours, you could get people off the streets into the garages, which is another goal. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Foley?
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for your service. I'll make this pretty brief.
I was hoping for more information, but I don't think I'm going to get it tonight. It has to do with the budget. I will tell you, I have an opportunity to look at the budget. In my estimation, you don't have sufficient information to make a judgment or vote on whether that should be approved for 2019. There's just clearly not enough information there, and the information there appears to be inadequate. For example, you have an amusement tax that budgeted 2018. According to your records for 9 months, you didn't collect anything.
We did. It comes in the fourth quarter every year.
There should be at least some note that, in fact, that occurred, because that's not the only revenue item. But my understanding of the amusement tax, that comes from things that were conducted during the summer. And we're into November. So did they come in after September 30th? Is it in now?
I believe it came in about a week or 2 weeks ago. We were just received the memo from Mr. Bolzoni. I think it was last week.
Yeah, and I had sat down with Mr. Bolzoni too, and I had the same question because there was 0 that came in through September. And the explanation I was given was the majority of that comes from Live Nation up at the amphitheater. So that all comes in one lump sum in November. And he also responded this in an email to all of us that it did come in about a week ago.
Have you ever checked the number? Basic question. Whatever they gave you, did you ever check it? Did anybody in the city ever check it? I'll take that as a no. I got pave cuts, no revenue for 2018. According to this, you didn't collect any. Either you did or you didn't. If you didn't, the question would be, why not? I looked at the health insurance costs, and it appears to be significantly understated. I looked at the revenue items, and it appears that you should have more revenue through the end of September than you've got. I think you may have more towards the end of the year, but that then raises the question, where is it? Is it sitting in an account, single tax office? I don't know. But you should, or you should at least ask the city. Now with that, I don't believe you 5 gentlemen have the depth and breadth of experience to assess the quality of the budget. Now that's not meant to be derogatory towards you. It's meant that you just have not received the training. What you've done historically is accept what the city has given to you. You have never tried to independently verify it. One of the failings I find within the information you received, that there's no comparison with prior budgets, what the city has budgeted for any particular year, and what it turns out to be on an actual basis, other than the supplemental information that shows up in the audited financial statements. I don't know whether you've received them yet now. But that would be the first gauge as to the quality of the budget if there are material differences between prior year and the current year. But then that also assumes that the information prepared by the outside auditors is the similar to, consistent with, how the city prepares its budget. I only mention these things because, frankly, I really think that you're going to wind up with a deficit at the end of the year, this year and next year. I hope not, but possibly. I saw items in the budget that I thought that might help the city. A number of years ago, you put in quality of life tickets. Do you know what the collection rate is on the quality of life tickets?
Approximately 25%.
What?
Approximately 25%, in my opinion.
Yes. So why are they bothering to issue tickets if nobody's going to collect them?
We're going to revamp that program in the beginning of the year.
I'm sorry, what?
We're going to totally revamp that ticketing process in the beginning of the year.
So that's at the end of 2018 for a program that went in 2015. Now, I understand from what you said, you're going to revamp it. But what a surety. And there's a couple $100,000 worth of outstanding tickets out there. How are you going to get the money? What are you going to do? Simple questions. But more importantly, why didn't anybody know that they were not paid? Why didn't somebody tell you? Frankly, it's not you don't have the training, as I said, but I think you're relying on guys who may not have a clue as to what's going on financially in the city, other than maybe some outside people that are advising the city. I'm not sure where that advice at times is correct or in the best interest of the city. Now with that, I hope to receive more information on your budget, because what I have doesn't give me sufficient information to talk intelligently.
Thank you.
So, gentlemen, have a great evening. I am going to go have dinner with my wife. Belated happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Gerard Hetman.
Good evening, Council. Gerard Hetman from the Lackawanna County Commissioner's Office. To begin this evening, if you're looking for Christmas and holiday-themed events over the next few weeks, we've got plenty coming up. So just briefly, first, the Trim a Tree Challenge is now on display at the Electric City Trolley Museum. Trees are decorated by local art students from local schools. Visit the Trolley Museum and vote for your favorite tree through December 28th. Second, the Santa on the Trolley excursions are now running from the Electric City Trolley Museum every Saturday and Sunday, now through December 23rd. Departures take place at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12:30 p.m., 2 p.m., and 3:30 p.m. It's a 10-mile ride to PNC Field and back. Reservations are required. Please call 570-963-6590 for reservations and more information. Third, the County Christmas Tree Lighting, an annual event that's brief, but we really like it. It takes place this year on Thursday, November 29th. 6 o'clock p.m. at Courthouse Square on the North Washington Avenue side. We'll have some Christmas carols, some refreshments. Again, brief program, but a nice way to start the Christmas season after Thanksgiving. So please join us if you can. Also, the holiday marketplace at the Globe will open this year on Friday, December 7th. 5 o'clock p.m. will be the lighting of all the decorations on the front of the building, and then the marketplace opens at 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock on Friday, Saturday 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Approximately 60 vendors will be available. So please check it out. It's the same event that we've had inside of the Globe Store building the last 2 years. So check it out, and lots of local vendors. Looks like it's a little bit different program this year, but really exciting. Also, the Festival of Trees opening reception at the Marketplace at Steamtown is Friday, December 14th, 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's a $20 per person admission. All proceeds benefit Toys for Tots. And Marine Corps Reserve also collects toys at that event for Toys for Tots in our area. So join us. The trees are on display through early January. I don't have the exact date here, but that's the opening reception, and everyone really enjoys seeing that when they can. Also, the Trolley Museum Holiday Celebration takes place on Saturday, December 15th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Trolley rides are included, along with various arts and crafts, refreshments for kids and adults. Admission price is $10, and that does cover the Trolley Museum. Again, for more information on that, call the Trolley Museum at 570-963-6590. And last but not least, on the event front, the OHVA Santa Train is running this Friday, or excuse me, December 1st, so this Saturday. Stops at Steamtown National Historic Site at 3 p.m. That's the last of 6 stops on the schedule for that day from Carbondale down through the valley. Marine's also collecting Toys for Tots donations at that location. Come on out and check it out. It's free, and we've seen several hundred people this year. I think is going to be the 4th year that it's been at the Steamtown Historic Site proper, and we get a bigger and better crowd every year to see Santa come in on the front of the locomotive. So check it out, and please join us. It's a great event right here in downtown Scranton. We're happy to see it work really well. Also, the Office of Youth and Family Service in Lackawanna County is running their annual Adopt an Angel program this year. It provides gifts for children in the care of Lackawanna County's Office of Youth and Family Service, many of whom would not have a good Christmas without this program. Every year it helps several hundred children get Christmas gifts when otherwise they wouldn't have anyone to provide those. Anyone can sponsor a child, an individual, a family, community, or school group, church group, businesses, whatever you'd like. Our office bands together. Normally we help 3 or 4 children during the year, which we're happy to do. To contribute, it's very easily just contact Mary Kay, Sharon, or Donna at 570-963-6781. Those are Office of Youth and Family Service staff who are assigned this time of the year to help run the program. And again, for folks that either can't make it downtown to donate or need their toys somehow picked up, they're always willing to help them with that. They make it really easy and fun to participate in the program. So please consider spreading the word if you can. And last but not least, the release of the Blight to Bright report. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this and you've probably discussed it. Will take place this Thursday, November 29th, 6 p.m. at the Lackawanna County 911 Center in Jessup. Chance to learn about the first steps in a comprehensive strategy to address blight in our communities. It's a joint project, of course, between the Lackawanna County Land Bank and the City of Scranton and NeighborWorks of Northeastern Pennsylvania. So if you can join us, I know this is the same time as the tree lighting. We didn't realize that was going to be the case, but please come out and check it out if you can. Again, a great chance to get in at the start of a very exciting project. So thank you, and that's all we have.
Thank you very much. Les Spindler?
Good evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner, taxpayer. First of all, I'd like to welcome Jamie back. She's been out for so long, and she was missed. I'm sure she was missed in the office. Now, you have to give me more time for that now, Jamie. First off, I didn't look at the budget. Is the $300 garbage fee in there again?
The garbage fee remains the same.
Councilman Donahue, are you going to vote to pass that?
I'm going to talk about that when motions.
Because I don't remember what your quote was, but you said you won't vote for $300 garbage fee again.
I'm going to talk about that in motions.
Okay. Well, everybody knows my opinion on that. I think it's illegal. We pay our taxes to have our garbage picked up. But I've said that about 1,000 times here. It goes in one ear and out the other. One thing I am happy about is for 3 years in a row now, no tax hike. Last year, I remember a woman coming here and saying, Bill Courtwright's not raising taxes because he's running for re-election. Well, he's not running for re-election this year, and there's no tax hike. So what do you think about that, Faye? These buttons on the corners where you're supposed to push and the light changes, they don't work. What is the purpose of them? I've never seen them work. In my retirement job, I deliver auto parts, I drive all around. I see people push those buttons all day, they don't work.
We could check with PennDOT. I know PennDOT runs those.
They don't work. So people stand there, they push the button and the lights don't change. I don't know what the purpose of that is. It should be how it is on Mulberry Street at the U. They push a button and lights go on the street.
Yeah, what it's supposed
Cars
to...
have to stop.
That's what it's supposed to do is when you push the button, it's supposed to stop the oncoming traffic for 5 seconds to get you started. But I agree, I don't think they work either. I don't think
they don't work. Councilman Rogan, is it the newspapers won't be collected in 2 weeks? Is that?
I think it was the 10th.
The week of the 10th will be leaf,
Okay.
leaf removal in lieu of paper.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
the
a
week of
whole
the
week?
10th. The whole,
Okay.
Yeah, the whole week. So for on West Side, it would be on Monday.
Last week, my wife and I went to the Viewmont Mall. You know, that place is beautiful. It's so nice. I walked the Steamtown Mall, it's depressing. The place is a dump. Instead of putting money into that waste of a marketplace on the second floor, they should have put money into it to remodel it. That's a joke up on the second floor. Hardly anybody shops there. Put more stores in this place where people are going to spend money. Everybody goes to the Viewmont Mall. Nobody shops downtown. I think it's ridiculous, and I think Basilique is doing a terrible job. He's got the aquarium, whoop-de-doo. How many people go visit that? Listen, the Viewmont Mall is beautiful. Okay. I know last week I watched the meeting. One of the people spoke about cars parked too close to corners. I drive all around the city, as I said. The whole area around the University of Scranton, we could have a field day ticketing people there. They're parked right to the corner, and it's dangerous. I go to these corners, I have to creep out, make sure you can't tell if anything's coming. They park right to the corner. Something should be done.
Yeah, I'll talk about that
I mean,
in Fifth.
and-
We got a response back from Chief.
And I heard last week, you don't have to put no parking stuff on the ground. When you take your driver's test, I forget what it is, it's like 15 or 20 feet. You have to be that far from the corner. shouldn't need a marking to tell you that. And like I said, it's a dangerous situation. These kids, I understand maybe it's tough to park, but you can't park right to the corner. Something's got to be done. It's got to be enforced more. I guess that's all I have. I don't know if I'll be here. So I guess after you pass the budget, you'll take your break. I don't know if I'll be back, so. If I'm not back, happy holidays to everybody, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you. Have a Merry Christmas. Ron Oman.
Hello, Council. Mr. Donahue, you should be honored because you're my first attack tonight. It's not serious. I think you meant well, but you're advocating how to vote shouldn't have been carried that far. That's all I'm going to say about that. Poor Wayne, you look like a stepchild sitting there. I'm not even going to argue with you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate
Pat,
it.
don't be mad at me that you're second here. I can't comprehend how you think the city's making a rebound. You evidently talk to the wrong people. You talk to the people where all the money, like Durkins, throws away at downtown. You don't talk to the people, these people and these people out there that are paying for everything. I don't hear nothing but adversities about the mayor and the council and his two hacks and the school board. Let me just have a couple seconds and tell you how my neighborhood has declined unmercifully. It's 100 times worse than when I bought the house in '94. On my street, I got 2 condemned houses. I don't know what they're going to do with them. One of them, God, it must be 10 years it's sitting there. One block over on the 2515, there's an old white car with no license plates or nothing, been sitting on the sidewalk for 4 years. Got a broken window. One block up, in Bob that used to come here, Bob Jones, his old house, they're raising dogs and they got a sign out there, it's a puppy mill, puppies for sale and all. Directly across the street is a tractor trailer parked. There's a city code over 15,000 pounds. You can't park overnight, and there's a state code that says 10,000. It's there. Nobody cares. You can't, you phone the licensing bureau up there. I phoned Mr. Hinton 4 times. He never answered a call. He doesn't even know what I phoned about. On the corner of Dean and Main, there's 3 junk cars in that field, been there for, I don't know, months and months, 6, 8 months. There's another tractor that's parked there at night. On Troop Street, I'm not sure of the address, at Troop and Hollister, there's a man dismantles cars. He got junk transmissions and stuff all over the place. He got some cars that don't run sitting on Hollister. This is my neighborhood. This is where my taxes are 2 or 3 times more than when I bought the house and I was working then. Now, we're talking again about the reassessment, which will, it means, I just don't know where these people, this project people, find such stupid and naive people to believe their nonsense. How you can spend all this money and say the taxes will go down for anyone. And then you people are advocating 10 years free taxes for the people that we need most to pay taxes, young, financial, able people. I never heard of nothing like this. You want to give them everything, police protection and schools and everything, on the backs of people my age and senior citizens and low-income people that I talk to at the grocery store every time I go to get peanuts out at the Price Right. I listen to these horror stories about what their neighborhood has come to. You got the wrong idea on improving the city. You're talking about a downtown that just can't exist unless we pour money into it. You know why? Because there's dozens of people like Jefferson downtown that own buildings that owe hundreds of thousands of dollars all over the city, and nothing's done about them. It's time that somebody just started thinking of the people paying for everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay Walsh.
Good evening. You guys have been a victim of my work. This is heaven. It's the gift of life. And if somebody has a notion it's someplace else, nobody's been able to answer that question for me. I think this council should put a condemnation on the Catholic Church because it has affected a lot of children and women in this community. And for you to sit idly by and accept that behavior is unreprehensible. And you should encourage the Attorney General to do the indictments and the arrests, okay? And if you're just going to sit there quietly, really.
Nobody's encouraging what's going on at the church.
I think that your silence is deafening, okay?
It's not, the church business has not, the city has nothing to do with the church business.
Well, it does, because they're citizens of this city, okay? So you're completely wrong on that notion.
But we could disagree.
Well, we'll agree to disagree, but I know who's right here. We're right, and those priests should be arrested and indicted.
I agree.
Period. And I think you guys should make a collective statement to that effect, okay? We're all interconnected here. And if you believe otherwise, that's...
Well, I mean, I hate to interject and take some of your time, but and this is just my opinion. I have my personal beliefs, and it's sickening and it's irreprehensible what's going on. But for me to use this platform, I don't think that's correct.
You just did.
But personally, that's why I said I'm leery to interject. But I have my personal appearance. I would do that for myself, my own name,
brother.
But
okay,
this
one spirit.
Isn't quite the. This body isn't.
You don't separate the spirit from the body. Okay. Religion is dogma. Spirituality is spirituality, and they're mutually exclusive. Okay. I think you should encourage all monies from the gaming revenue be put into what it was intentionally sold on, property taxes. Not to give Shot Glass $5 million to have them lay off 28 people. Not for, God rest his soul, Mr. McGough to put forward $1.5 million for roofing construction next door, the Radisson $2 million to fix their facade, and some other private facility. That was meant and sold on as property taxes, okay? Period. And that's certainly within your realm to encourage the state legislators to pass, I think it's Bill 76. The University of Chicago will be coming in here in the next 10 weeks to start teaching us about community organizing. They're the premier institute in the country for community organizing. And I think that we as the people should basically attend those things and start taking over certain aspects of what we do. United we stand, divided we fall. Then the other thing is now, within the city and well within your purview, is the fact of the matter is you can pay first responders $100,000 a year, okay? You could withhold their federal tax money because they have plenty of money, $840 trillion worth of money down in Washington, D.C. And I showed you how I got there. You saw my work, okay? Encouraged the state legislators and the governor to, and I'm going to go and take this to court, to set up the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Bank, okay? Because the Bible clearly states usury fees are not to be used. That's what got the Knights Templar thrown out of the Vatican back in the day. And that's why they migrated up to Switzerland, okay? But usury fees just are not allowed, okay? Now, you've had distressed city status for the longest time, okay? But down in Harrisburg, they got to be laughing at you, okay? We're not a distressed city. They're just withholding funds because it's not set up appropriate. If you had the Commonwealth Bank of Pennsylvania, you would have never been in a distressed city. Now, I don't say go nuts and spend like drunken sailors like they do in Washington.
Thank you.
I thought I'd get...
If you want another 30
closing.
seconds to wrap up your thought.
How about, and the other thing is, you should escrow all the garbage fees for this upcoming year. Mr. DeNaples is in deep trouble, and from a whole lot of different angles. And you saw that with the Attorney General going across the street and basically taking those records, but there's also a number of other lawsuits that he's going to lose on. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident, taxpayer. Okay. I figured out what I would do with that computer screen that was dropped off in front of my property. It was in the street, dropped off. I'm going to paint an election sign over, and I'm going to put it as a monument to privatize trash, because that's essentially what computer components and televisions are, and I'm going to leave it set there. I heard some rumblings about lower tax rates, but I think it's more important that we start clearing up some of these deficits first before we rush into cutting taxes. The federal government cut taxes, and now they're crowing that they don't have money for even the most minimal Social Security or medical, and that they may have to cut. And it's just silly. I don't know, every week we hear somebody hollering about they can't live on $700 or $800 a month, and there's a certain amount of common things that retirees and people on the lower end of Social Security pay for that they need. They just buy essentials, and 2% increase a year doesn't cut it. So, you know, it's just we need to start, and some politicians that were elected locally here for Washington had exactly that in mind. On the bottom end, we have to boost it up, and if you people don't choose to support it because of your ideology, that's fine, but you might need your heads examined other than to put up with a bunch of angry retirees every week complaining that they don't have enough to even pay their taxes. Last week, once again, the anti-smoking activists were in here. And, you know, it seems like they just want people to jump through hoops. I'm just tired of social activists that, you know, there's a few common sense no smoking areas, and I don't even smoke anymore. I use a vapor thingy, but you know, I was at a racetrack last summer, 30,000 horsepower, blowing out carbon monoxide and everything else. They got 4 miles a gallon, 750 horsepower per car. And Mr. Authority came over to me. I was in between the stands, and there was an accident. I was waiting to see what happened and trying to catch the race, and I figured I'd take a little puff of my vapor pipe, and sir, you can't do that here. You know, it's like 40,000 horsepower or 30,000 horsepower on the track, and that's harmful. If you really did any research into this area, you would find that about 25% of the lung cancer is radon gas, and it comes up through your basement when the earth is disturbed from mining, and there's deposits underground of it, and it's gaseous, and it can fill up your basement, not with hardly detectable levels, but over the years it takes its toll and settles into your lungs and can cause cancer. So as far as kids, okay, I like kids too, but I shouldn't have to live a life of sainthood just because somebody has kids that they're concerned about. And if they were attempting to buy alcohol or using alcohol and caught with alcohol, they would be, once again, they would be arrested for it. So maybe we should go that route, and if they get caught with cigarettes, give them a fine and arrest them. You know, that's the law. They're not authorized to do it. But it's time that we stop getting people with an agenda to limit everybody else's behavior while they seem to think that their behavior isn't a problem. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Perry, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, thank you. I only have one thing, and it's just to wrap up a question that Mr. Jeffries had last week. We did get a speedy response back from Chief Graziano about the parking issues up in the hill section, about they were just parking too close to intersections. And this is the chief's response. He has directed the civil parking enforcement to increase their enforcement efforts in the hill, and specifically the intersections of Vine and Quincy, Vine and Clay and Olive. So hopefully we get to remedy that, and it just seems like we just need some more enforcement in that part of the city when it comes to parking too close to the corner, because it does become an issue. I know there's other sections in the city that you just have that one intersection where it just becomes a blind intersection if there's a parked car there. So the chief has committed to more enforcement in that area, and we should see that problem cleared up sooner rather than later. And I'll hold everything else off for our agenda items tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Any motions or comments?
Yes, just briefly. Back in September, Representative Flynn's office had sent a letter to PennDOT regarding the intersection of Pittston Avenue and Orchard Street and a traffic signal being put in there. Over the weekend, there was another accident there on Friday, I believe it was. So, Mrs. Reed, would we be able to forward this letter we got from PennDOT with a couple of these options to the administration and ask them to explore these options to possibly put a light at Orchard and Pittston Avenue? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, any motions or comments?
Just briefly. So I know tonight's meeting, or tonight's business is very important, but sometimes it just doesn't seem that important when it's measured by what's happening all around us. For my very brief comments tonight, I would like to take a moment to mourn the loss of another beautiful girl. She was taken last night from her family and her friends. I consider her parents among my very, very best friends, and my heart is breaking for them. Another family left to deal with what has become a local and national epidemic and tragedy. When will it end? Another beautiful girl is gone. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Gahn, any motions or comments?
Yes, thank you. Some of you may have noticed the sidewalks are, I don't know if they're closed officially yet around City Hall, but we did receive correspondence from Mr. Bolzoni. They are doing an assessment of City Hall to see what the deficiencies are. And apparently structural engineers from the Highland assessment regarding the large tower on top of City Hall, their report is apparently going to conclude that the tower may be unsafe, and they're recommending that the sidewalks be closed off until such time that the tower is repaired and made safe again. So from Mr. Bolzoni, he spoke with Drew Marcinkevich from Highland Associates. He concurred, and a formal advisement is forthcoming, so I'm assuming council will get a copy of that. And then the Highland assessment of City Hall we should be receiving within 2 to 3 weeks. Last week we had sent a letter to the DPW about the 1500 block of Froud Avenue. There is constant water runoff even a week after it rains, and I talked about some of the issues there. I had a chance to talk to some more neighbors in that area, and the issue is extremely dangerous. So I'd like Mrs. Reed, if you can follow up and if you get a chance to speak to the DPW director just to see if there's anything that they can do to help those people out. Also, we received a letter from a resident of Morgan Manor condominiums. I believe we received this complaint before. I'm not sure that there's anything that can be done, but if we can send something to the administration. We've been getting a lot of complaints about the Morgan Highway up to the Morgan Manor, which is city-owned, being very dark because there's no lighting up there. So if we could submit this request and see what the administration can help out with that. Also, Councilman Donahue and I had met last week with the mayor, the superintendent of schools, Director Cognetti, and Director Gilmartin from the school district regarding our shared services committee. We will have a report that we'll present to council, I believe, next week. And this is something that we've been working on now for quite some time. So we met with different department heads from the city and from the school district. Some of the items, I just want to go through some of the things that we've talked about that we can possibly work with the school district on. Delinquent tax collection, the payroll tax conversion, the real estate tax discount period. We did talk about the 10-year citywide LRTA that's on our agenda for improvements in new construction. So the school district apparently is going to discuss this at their next meeting so that they'll possibly be included in that. Our IT departments, printer, copier services and maintenance, healthcare, the HUP test, recycling, purchasing of pool supplies, chemicals, crosswalk safety and pothole repair, grant writing services, procurement card, complete count census committee, and the Electric City Shock soccer field project. So these are all things that we've discussed over the last few months. Like I said, we'll have a report to present to council with some of these items. And then, you know, in our meeting, it seemed like the mayor and the superintendent were really on board with trying to accomplish some of these things. So, again, that was very hopeful. Also, tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the theater at North, there are plans, I'm sure everyone's seen it in the newspaper, to replace the Greenridge Street Bridge off of North Main Avenue. So there will be a meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the theater at North. The project engineers and PennDOT will be available. They'll be discussing the project. This project is going to affect a lot of people and a lot of businesses. If you read the newspaper today, there's several options that they're considering. So anyone in this area that may be affected or is interested in learning what the options are, you should attend this meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. It is open to the public. Also, I forwarded this to Mrs. Reed earlier today, but I did receive a very lengthy email about the Keystone Rescue Mission, which is on Olive Street. We've received complaints about that building and that establishment before. This gentleman had attached a video, an actual video clip to some of the things going on out there. So I did forward that to Chief Graziano, and waiting for a response from him on what might be able to be done. Also received another concern from a resident in Manuka. The alley is escaping me right now, but it's parallel to Bernie Avenue. I've tried to help this gentleman out before to no avail. So Mrs. Reed, I'll get you the alley and show you the information after the meeting, but if we could send something to the DPW. This gentleman had sent me updated pictures, and his yard is getting damaged from water runoff. Also, I have a meeting this week on something that we have discussed with the idea sessions in creating an internship opportunity between the University of Scranton and the City Council office. So I will be meeting with Julie Cohen from the University of Scranton this week to further discuss that initiative. And that's all I have this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one quick comment on non-agenda items regarding the article, and I think a couple of the speakers brought it up with the police and fire overtime. Do kind of want to echo what was mentioned by one of the speakers that, you know, when you see on the front page in the newspaper somebody making a six-figure salary, it may cause you to pause. But also remember that these individuals in our police and fire department are out there risking their lives every day to keep us safe. Not only that, when they are working overtime, it is exactly that, overtime. Time that they're taking away from their families on nights and weekends, or days and weekends, depending on what shift they work. And obviously, if they're working extra hours, they need to be compensated. Personally, I support hiring more officers and more firefighters as a way to cut down on overtime, which provides better protection and also cuts down on the overtime cost. Now, I understand there's health care. If you're hiring more people, there's health care costs, there's pension costs. So sometimes overtime can actually be less expensive than hiring additional employees. The numbers are always large. They've actually gotten better, which was highlighted in the article, since the new contracts were passed. And you know, I just want to reiterate that we appreciate all the work of our police and firefighters. I know they oftentimes don't get the appreciation they deserve, so I just wanted to mention that. And that's all.
5B for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract between the City of Scranton and the Scranton School District with Joseph M. Alou and Associates to perform the Scranton Single Tax Office independent audit for fiscal years ending December 31, 2017 and December 31, 2018.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5C for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to apply for and execute a grant application by the City of Scranton to the Lackawanna Heritage Valley National and State Heritage Area Partnership Grant Application for construction on the Wenzel Treehouse repairs in the amount of $1,000.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the Council number 38, 2018, an ordinance appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2019 to and including December 31, 2019, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2019.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
I move that 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, on the question. Last week I posed a number of questions to the administration, so we did put that in writing and sent it to the mayor's office and copied Mr. Bolzoni. When Mr. Bolzoni came tonight, he did present us with a lengthy list of responses, so I obviously need more time since I'm just seeing this to take a look and ask any follow-up questions if need be. But I do appreciate the response to what looks like each one of my questions. Just a general comment, and I mentioned this last week, but I still am concerned, and obviously there'll be more light shed after I go through the answers to my questions from last week, but I do think we should invite the Pennsylvania Economy League in to our caucus next week, if possible. And I say that just, I think it is a matter of practice we should, since they are our recovery coordinator. But when they issued their letter to council, which they usually do, I look at the expenditures and we're way over from what the plan projections were for 2019. I mentioned this last week, but we're 106% over what the plan calls for in capital expenditures. We're $7 million over total from what the plan called for in expenditures and what the proposed budget calls for. We're also nearly $8 million over, actually nearly $9 million over what the plan called for in revenues and what the budget is proposing. But most importantly, what concerns me is the expenditures. I do think that we need to have Pell in to discuss that and just their general outlook on the city's finances. So I would appreciate, in fact, I'd like to make a motion that City Council invite the Pennsylvania Economy League in next week to discuss the 2019 budget.
Second.
On the question? I agree with having Pell come in if we can. Obviously, we're not giving them a ton of notice, but if they're able to come in, I certainly would support that as well. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
The other thing, and I've mentioned this really since I've been on council, but just as a matter of practice, just so people understand, we're voting on a budget that is well over $100 million. So I think, and I talked to Mr. Bolzoni earlier today about this, and he agrees as well. Moving forward, we really should have budget work sessions leading up to the actual budget being placed on our agenda. It's difficult to get the budget and then have 3 weeks, ask questions, get a response, and then have to put your name on this budget within that time period. The school district has budget work sessions. Other similarly sized municipalities have budget work sessions really throughout the year. So I think moving forward next year, this council should request that. I think it would be very beneficial for all involved in the budget process. Thank you.
On that question, I've been a proponent of work sessions since I've been on council. I find them to be very effective. So I certainly would support that, and we can certainly start with the budget process.
Just one brief comment. Also in the letter that Councilman Gahn cited, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I think it's about 3 pages. A couple of the highlights from the coordinator, Pell. It states the coordinator views this positive change as a measure of the city's progress towards a continued and sustainable financial position to the future. I know some will state concerns about rising costs, and just as when we do our budgets at home, unfortunately, costs are increasing for everyone. But the good news is, although costs are increasing by 7.5%, revenues increase by 9.9%. So our revenue increases are outpacing our cost increases, which means one of 2 things. It means that we're balanced, or it means we're actually collecting too much money, and then you look to start to reduce taxes. Regarding the large increase for capital expenditures, I think that this is long overdue after decades of neglect. And it's not the fault of previous councils or previous mayors. The city just did not have the money to invest in infrastructure. The city was worried about keeping the lights on and providing basic services. Because we are in a much better position financially now, we can put that investment into infrastructure. You've seen it with the road paving program over the last number of years, the street light program. It's no secret City Hall needs a massive overhaul. There's a number of other issues. Roads and bridges are still not what they should be in the city. So as far as the infrastructure spending, I think we need to even spend more if we can on infrastructure. Obviously, it needs to be done in a measured approach, and I think we're on the right path, but there still is a lot of work to do on the infrastructure side. Not only what the residents see, but also what they don't see. Equipment for our police and firefighters, our DPW as well with new plows. And, we're starting to see the results of a number of these items. So there are, with any budget, pluses and minuses, and it's nice to see these figures laid out. But it is good that our projected revenues are outpacing projected expenditures, which is a very good sign. Anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6B, reading by title, filed with Council Number 39, 2018. An ordinance amending file with Council Number 6, 1976, entitled, an ordinance as amended imposing a tax for general revenue purposes on the transfer of real property situate within the city of Scranton, prescribing and regulating the method of evidencing the payment of such tax, conferring powers and imposing the duties upon certain persons, and providing penalties by imposing the rate of the realty transfer tax at 2 2/10% for calendar year 2019, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, according to Mr. Bolzoni's accounting of it, and I had this conversation with him prior to, we've actually exceeded budget expectations in year 2015, 2016, 2017, and I fully expect us to meet the budget line item this year as well. So I think our strategy is working. People are starting to buy houses in Scranton again. I have a report from the Greater Scranton Board of Realtors for the last 12 months. I'll just go over it briefly just to give you an idea of what I think is happening. New listings are up 0.05%. That's good news because the market is tightening up. Pending sales are up 7%. This is for the last 12 months. Closed sales are up almost 5%. The median sale price for houses in Scranton are up 20%, and the average sale price in Scranton is up 17%. Also, days on market is down by 25%. So we're trending in the right direction. By taking action like this, I think we'll continue to do that. I'm going to actually talk to Mr. Bolzoni a little bit more, see if we can get some harder numbers on where we are this year, because maybe we can actually even look at another modest reduction for 2019.
Anyone else? I would just agree with every single word Councilman Evans just said. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6C, reading by title, file of the Council Number 40, 2018, an ordinance amending file of the Council Number 7, 1976, entitled, an ordinance as amended imposing a mercantile license tax of 2 mills for the year 1976 and annually thereafter upon persons engaging in certain occupations and businesses therein, providing for its levy and collection and for the issuance of mercantile licenses, conferring and imposing powers and duties upon the tax collector of the city of Scranton, and imposing penalties by imposing the mercantile license tax at 1 mill for calendar year 2019, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6C. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6C pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6D, reading by title, file of the Council Number 41, 2018, an ordinance amending file of the Council Number 8, 1976, entitled, an ordinance as amended providing for the general revenue by imposing a tax at the rate of 2 mills upon the privilege of operating or conducting business in the city of Scranton as measured by the gross receipts therefrom, requiring registration and payment of the tax as condition to the conducting of such business, providing for the levy and collection of such tax, prescribing such requirements for returns and records, conferring powers and duties upon the tax collector, and imposing penalties by imposing the business privilege tax at the rate of 1 mill for calendar year 2019, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6D. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6D pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6E, reading by title, file of the Council Number 42, 2018, an ordinance amending file of the Council Number 11, 1976, entitled, an ordinance as amended enacting imposing a tax for general revenue purposes in the amount of 2% on earned income and net profits on persons, individuals, associations, and businesses who are residents of the city of Scranton or non-residents of the city of Scranton for work done, services performed, or business conducted within the city of Scranton, requiring the filing of returns by taxpayers subject to the tax, requiring employers to collect the tax at source, providing for the administration, collection, and enforcement of the said tax, and imposing penalties for the violations by reenacting the imposition of the wage tax at 2 4/10% on earned income for residents and 1% on earned income for non-residents of the city of Scranton for work done, services performed, or business conducted within the city of Scranton for the year 2019, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6E. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6E pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6F, reading by title, file of the council number 43, 2018, an ordinance amending file of the council number 78, 2017, an ordinance amending file of the council number 100, 1976, entitled, an ordinance as amended levying general and special taxes for the fiscal year 1977 by setting the millage for the year 2019, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter by amending section 1, reverting back to the millage rates from 2016, which are 0.232521 mills levy on land and 0.050564 mills levy on all buildings, and by eliminating the dedicated millage for debt service contained in section 2 and replacing the dedicated millage for debt service with a dedicated debt percentage of 32% of real estate tax revenues collected on a current year basis.
Heard reading by title of item 6F. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6F pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6G, reading by title, file of the council number 44, 2018, an ordinance creating and establishing special city account number as noted entitled SSA Pension for receiving funds from that part of the sale of the Scranton Sewer Authority proceeds used for the pension obligation note, taxable series of 2018, and the disbursement of payments on the pension obligation note, taxable series of 2018.
Heard reading by title of item 6G. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6G pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6H, reading by title, file of the council number 45, 2018, an ordinance creating and establishing special city account number as noted entitled SSA Funds for receiving the remaining balance of funds from the sale of the Scranton Sewer Authority for dispersing for future city projects.
Heard reading by title of item 6H. What is your pleasure?
I move that 6H pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6I, reading by title, file of the council number 46, 2018, an ordinance amending file of the council number 138, 2017, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a pension trust agreement with a composite pension board to hold approximately $22,910,531.56 of the proceeds from the sale of the assets of the Scranton Sewer Authority in trust until such time as pension reforms have been enacted by permitting the city to transfer funds required pursuant to the original trust agreement to the composite pension board through the issuance of non-electoral debt in a principal amount of approximately $22,910,531.56.
You've heard reading by title of item 6I. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6I pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6J, reading by title, file of the council number 47, 2018, an ordinance creating and establishing special city account number as noted entitled Street Lighting Lease Reserve Funds for the receipt and disbursement of street lighting lease reserve funds.
Heard reading by title of item 6J. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6J pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6K, reading by title, file of the council number 48, 2018, an ordinance creating and establishing special city account number as noted entitled Highmark Healthcare Reserve for the receipt of Highmark Healthcare funds and disbursement of these funds for City of Scranton healthcare costs.
Heard reading by title of item 6K. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6K pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6L, reading by title, file of the council number 49, 2018, an ordinance amending file of the council number 21, 2016, an ordinance entitled Defining and Authorizing Tax Exemptions from Real Property Tax in order to improve deteriorating real property in certain areas in the city of Scranton, establishing an exemption schedule and procedures for obtaining exemptions, and providing for non-permissible exemptions, and limiting amendment thereto, to expand the eligible areas, increase the duration of each exemption, and to lift the cap of each exemption.
You've heard reading by title of item 6L. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6L pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6M, reading by title, file of the council number 50, 2018, an ordinance amending file of the council number 22, 2016, an ordinance entitled Defining and Authorizing Tax Exemptions from Real Property Tax in order to stimulate residential, commercial, and other business activity in certain areas in the city of Scranton, establishing an exemption schedule and procedures for obtaining exemptions, providing for non-permissible exemptions, and limiting amendment thereto in order to expand the eligible areas, increase the duration of each exemption, and to lift the cap of each exemption.
You've heard reading by title of item 6M. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6M pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for Adoption, file of the Council number 37, 2018, authorizing the transfer of a vacant parcel of property owned by the City of Scranton to the Lackawanna County Land Bank in accordance with the Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement by and between the Land Bank, Lackawanna County, City of Scranton, and Scranton School District, property more commonly known as 2935-2937 Pittston Avenue, Scranton, PA 18505.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution number 86, 2018, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Scranton and local union number 60 of the International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, on the question. I had questions about 7B and 7C from last week. The Labor Council and the Human Resources Director came into our caucus, and my questions were answered, so I will be voting yes on both pieces.
And I'd like to thank both of those individuals for coming in and recognize all the hard work that they do to bring legislation like this forward that will ultimately save the city money. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution number 87, 2018, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a memorandum of understanding between Local Lodge 2462 and the City of Scranton and the School District of the City of Scranton regarding the Single Tax Office Collective Bargaining Agreement.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for Adoption, Resolution number 88, 2018, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the City of Scranton to enter into a loan-to-grant agreement and make a loan grant from the City of Scranton's Business and Industry Loan-to-Grant Program. Project number is noted in an amount not to exceed $140,000 to Rizzo Frizel Dental Group, PLLC, doing business as Electric City Dentistry, to assist an eligible project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for Adoption, Resolution Number 89, 2018, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a multi-bridge projects agreement by and between the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, acting through the Department of Transportation, and the City of Scranton for Commonwealth's performance of City of Scranton-owned bridge projects.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, on the question. I had questions about this last week as well. We did receive a response from our city solicitor, or not city solicitor, city engineer, John Pocius. He said that once this resolution is passed tonight, it will be sent back to PennDOT and fully executed. That's when PennDOT will start the design consultant selection process. The city, in essence, is turning the complete control of these bridges over to PennDOT. So as I mentioned last week, that would be West Lackawanna Avenue Bridge over the railroad, Elm Street Bridge over the Lackawanna River, North Main Avenue Bridge over Leggett's Creek, and the Parker Street Bridge over the Lackawanna River. The selection of a design consultant should be completed by next summer, hopefully. 3 or 4 years usually for design. Hopefully construction will begin after that. Mr. Pocius said that each bridge will probably be on a different schedule, so construction could start in 5 years. This project is extremely important. As everybody knows, our bridges are not in the best of shape, so the state picking up 95% of the tab on this is a huge help. I did ask Mr. Bolzoni prior to the meeting tonight how the city was going to account for the 5% match that we're going to be required to pay, which will be $1.1 million roughly. And this was included in our capital budget. So that is accounted for. Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Meeting adjourned.